Being a band leader is basically like trying to herd cats. Creative people are awesome at doing creative things, but tend not to be the best with things that help make running a business or ultimately trying to make your group successful, like time management skills, being somewhere on time, or make any sort of a responsible decision. My experience was a band leader for multiple groups for over 10 years, one of which used to work and actually make a little bit of money. And I made loads of mistakes through the years. So this is going to be some recommendations and advice for you to help to try to avoid the pitfalls that I ran into. The first thing, and definitely most important thing that I knew right from the drop that I never really took care of, is to get your legal stuff situated. This is so unbelievably boring, but damn, it's important. And believe me, I can tell you from firsthand because I'm still dealing with it today. Get this taken care of while you still vaguely like each other. The last thing you want to do is, once you all hate each other like an old married couple, is to try to figure out these issues. For most groups, and it was something that we worked out, was songwriting credit, right? You know, who gets songwriting credit for each song, and if your songs make money, what's the split going to be? For us, we always tried to split things 50-50 between everybody. All band members get an equal share in songwriting and an equal share in money. Now, I think this approach has its advantage of band morale. If everyone is getting an equal cut, then they all feel equally invested into the group. But I don't necessarily think this is the best idea because, at least in my experience, most bands end up being one person kind of spearheading it and everyone else being almost kind of like hired guns. Even if they feel otherwise, their effort level is definitely not going to be the same as yours. So trying to come up with a more fair split of the money might make sense, but you know, that's up to you and something to think about. Another issue is how are debts dealt with? And this is something that I'm dealing with now that we didn't get sorted out that we should have. Most businesses, or at least for ours, ran a little bit of debt as we were operating. You know, you're gonna have to pay for things, and at the time we were making enough money we could easily have paid off our debts as a group if we knew the group was going to be splitting up at any moment, so I wasn't worried about it. And then a pandemic rolled around, and then there's people that don't want to help cover these debts, and things get kind of dicey. So I would recommend trying to figure out your debts and try to avoid going into them if at all possible. But running a band is like running a business, and you know, you gotta spend money to make money sometimes. So trying to figure that out is very important. I'd also highly recommend to make sure that you do establish an LLC to help protect your personal assets. If something goes wrong coming back from a gig, and one of your band members happens to hurt someone, or if you're at a gig and some of your equipment falls on someone, we almost had that happen too, you know, you gotta make sure that you're protected. So be sure to spend the money, establish the LLC, and protect yourself. So another thing to think about is the band name. So if the band breaks up, who gets to use it? Does nobody get to use it? Is it just done? All of those sort of things to think about. Now, obviously, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not giving you legal advice in any way. I'm just a guitar player here on YouTube, but these are common issues that pop up. There's obviously loads of other ones. It's not a bad idea to get in touch with a lawyer and to try to get some documents drawn up. If you look around online, you can definitely find some templates to help you out as well. But try to get your legal stuff sorted before everyone hates each other like cats and dogs. Do not expect anything but the bare minimum from your band members. Maybe you'll get lucky and there'll be one other person who will go above and beyond. That was my experience. There was really one or two band members that I ever worked with that were willing to go above and beyond. Most people do the bare minimum, which is not practice their parts, show up, more or less suck, squeak our way through the gig, try to get paid, and go home. So don't expect everyone to jump in, help do social media marketing, all of the different things that you need to do as band leader. You need to be prepared to go above and beyond, and don't expect much else from anyone else. That was a major problem. We tried to delegate multiple times. Someone was supposed to do show posters, someone's supposed to cover the Twitter, someone's supposed to cover the Facebook, someone's supposed to update the Facebook with our show gigs that they didn't do for 6 months. So there's all of these things that you gotta try to delegate, but do not expect anything but the bare minimum from your bandmates, which is them to basically show up more or less on time and more or less play their parts. And this is one of the aspects that was most challenging for me as band leader. It's really hard to get people motivated to do stuff that you need to do to function as a business, and that's what your band is. It is a business. Your goal should be to make money. Try to delegate, but be organized and stay on top of people. If something slips for 6 months and it's not getting done, ultimately it does fall back on you as the person to make sure that the stuff is being done. So you've got to do this balancing act between staying on top of people but not nagging them. You need to delegate, but then also make sure that things get done. Find some kind of way of operating within the dysfunction, and there will be dysfunction. Be as organized as you can and try to keep things as simple as you can. That way, the big things get done on time. You need to get organized as the band leader because your job from a day-to-day or gig-to-gig kind of functioning is to know where everyone needs to be, when, and at what time. Beyond being organized, you need to have your house in order as well when it comes to your performance on stage. You need to be in top form. My weekly duties as band leader included updating our spreadsheet so we know what we had spent the previous weekend. My job was also to write sets, and I also programmed our light show. So getting in a steady routine where you can keep track and budget your time well and not allow all of these things to overwhelm you is very important. It's very easy at times for me to get lazy for a week, 2, 3 weeks, and not be checking the band bank account and then have to spend 2.5 hours going through writing checks to pay people, trying to figure out what our money situation was. Make sure that you're good with your time management. That way you can get all of the boring business stuff out of the way and still have time to practice and keep your chops at the absolute best. The main way that I kept all of this organized was anytime we would play a new venue, I had a document on my computer where I would just save all of that pertinent information. For our group, we were usually playing around 75 to 100 gigs a year, so it was usually 2 to 3 a weekend. So you end up going back to a lot of the same places, so knowing, what time load-in is, what the sound guy may or may not have liked or expected for any particularities with your sound setup, all of those little details. That way, if a band member asks what time load-in is for the 30 billionth time, instead of getting frustrated with them, try to just answer and be done with it. You need to get some sort of dedicated accounting software where you keep track of all of your expenses, ins and outs. You also need some sort of a band bank account and maybe even a band credit card, depending on how you want to handle paying things on the road, whether it be anything as simple as gas to hotels. You might want to look into some sort of cash rewards thing if you're going to be staying in a lot of hotels, take advantage of some sort of points system. There's all sorts of ways for the band to help save a little bit of money, and the more organized you can be with this, the better. Now, all of that is going to take time and energy. You're going to have to update your spreadsheet. What exactly did you make? What exactly did you spend? And now how much can you pay your band members? Fingers crossed that there's any money left over. So still trying to find the time to stay at the top of your game performance-wise is very important. So now that we're about halfway through this video, it's a good time to plug what I do. A Minor Error is the creative home for everything that I do musically, which is original progressive metal music, in-depth guitar reviews, and some guitar lessons and music theory lessons. I also down below have some affiliate links to products that I love and believe in, so if you like this video and you'd like to support the channel beyond just your typical subscribe and the bell and whatever YouTube stuff, you can go down there and check those out. That'll help support me directly. I do also give Zoom guitar, music theory, and music productions lessons, so if you're interested in booking a lesson, contact info is down below in the doobly-doo. Do not micromanage everyone in your group. You've got to have faith to at least whatever small degree that that person will do what their job is. This means maybe you only bring up practice, or maybe you only bring up that thing that they haven't written yet for a certain section once or twice, and then you just kind of gotta let it be and let it go. This also means in live performance in a gig, if someone keeps on making the same mistake, you really only bring it up maybe once, maybe twice, and then you've gotta just kind of live with it, or get to later on in the video and we'll talk about how to really get around that. This micromanaging issue definitely was a problem for my group, especially as we were trying to write extra technical music, and there's nothing worse than a sloppy band trying to play technical music. So we would micromanage far too much, trying to get in there and make sure everyone was playing the right rhythm or the right notes. A bit of it is just trying to just play and just let the musicians do their thing and try to trust each other as much as you can and not micromanage or nag. It can be really hard to do at times, especially when that thing that a band member is doing could be really holding back your group from growing. That was definitely a problem with my group, both in the original side and then in the cover band side along the way. You've got to just be a little bit of a mind reader as far as when to bring up an issue and when to let it go. It's definitely not an easy thing to try to balance. Which transitions well to the last advice that I would give you as a band leader, is that you need to be the ultimate talent scout. This sadly is the only way to deal with a potentially problematic band member, which is to replace them. And that can be a really hard thing to do, especially depending on where you're living. If you don't happen to be based out of LA or New York or Austin, Texas, there probably isn't a load of drummers or bass players running around. So it can be really hard to find a band member that is both good and dependable and not a drug addict, and all of these, problems and baggage that can come along with being in a band. So your job is really to be the ultimate talent scout on the sly, keeping your eye out in the local scene. Who else is the other rhythm guitar player in another band that maybe you're able to poach and come over to your group? It's also really important to be a talent scout and know who else is in the area and be connected to the scene, because band members won't stay in bands forever either. Life situations change. It's important to keep in mind that your band is like a sports team. You've got a limited period of time or a window to get something accomplished with the people in your band before somebody has to move on because of life circumstances. They get a new job and they have to move, they get married, whatever it is. There's all sorts of reasons why band members leave. You need to have some sort of a Rolodex or list of people in the scene that you already know ahead of time, where you've gone to their gigs, you've supported them, and there's some sort of connection there. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that frantic email from a local band, hey, we need a guitar player, hey, we need a bass player, do you know anybody? Like, no, you need to be out there way ahead of time, go to open mics, go around to other gigs, get to know people, add them on Facebook, get organized, write down, Billy Bob is great at bass, he plays in X band, go to his gigs, support him, buy their record when it comes out. Do all those little things that helps you develop those connections, so that if your bass player just refuses to write the chorus of a song for 6 months, you can fire on them and immediately get in a new band member seamlessly without potentially ending up in a situation where you don't have a complete band. I can't tell you for how many years when I was first getting A Minor Error started, we didn't have a drummer for like a year and a half. It took so long to find the right person. I didn't do a good enough job being out there in the scene, getting to know other players ahead of time. I was just posting endless Craigslist ads, fingers crossed that the right person would come along. And you know, post Craigslist ads and look on Facebook and all of those great things, but be out there in your local scene, try to get to know and support other musicians, because that's going to help them then want to come and support you when you're in need. So that's basically my list of things that I would suggest a band leader to do, with one little bonus one being just don't be a band leader. It's so hard. Just work on your chops and be a hired gun. You know, it's so much easier that way. You know, trying to run the business, trying to run the creative side of things can be just such a nightmare. Just don't even be a band leader.